Just to deconstruct this process a little bit into the capture part, transport part, and the storage part from the cost side and from the financial point of view. Do you think the governments have more responsibility for one of these areas? For example, for building a transportation system, which would be used in the future by different operators jointly? Or is it basically the case that government should contribute in a similar fashion to all three phases of the project?
I think this divides a little bit into how you see early opportunities arise. In the first phase, the cost is in such an excess, you need to go for the lower hanging fruits. So I think that it's fair to expect that the first decades of the CCS market will emerge in relation to existing infrastructure. You see that in the United States. You will probably see that in Europe as well. Having said that, of course, sources and sinks are not synchronized by location. There's going to, and if you want to do this in the oil fields, you might need a strong flexibility and availability of CO2 sources. So you need a coordinated approach. I think in terms of capture and storage, of course, it's going to be critical to communicate the risk in a rational way. We see today that there are some projects that are very successful in dealing, for instance, with local communities. Some are not that successful. I think that governments here can play a significant role to give a greater degree of confidence in these activities towards the greater public. By way of regulating this and providing requirements and transparency in this part. Of course, from a cost point of view, capture cost has to come down, but that needs to be something that I think also the commercial players will need to see their opportunity. And over time, of course, also make sure that the economies of scale can be beneficial to the overall progress. So there are probably challenges across cut, but I would say that to start at the storage part and then move upstream, the chain is probably going to be important.
And finally, before I open up for questions and comments from the floor, a question about the institutional aspects. Some of them are addressed in the EU CCS directive. Some member states moved on very quickly to implement the directive. Others are waiting and observing with watchful eye what goes on elsewhere in the world. They are examining the experience of those countries that have put in place the relevant legislation. How important is it to move on at an early stage to set up the necessary institutions, and what would be your roadmap of the most important steps to take in that process?
Well, clearly there are interesting developments around internationally with, I think, what needs to come in place very soon is a greater transparency on liabilities. You need to establish clear rules on post-abandonment rules and transfer of liabilities. There need to be a stronger clarity on the ownership of the pore space, and also I think also the measurement and monitoring rules and requirements need to be established. And this is also what we hear from the financial community, is that these are also frameworks that need to be a part of a total financial framework in order to have the transparency of risks at an acceptable level. So legal and institutional aspects is critical to the whole context here. And of course, like with the EU directive and the implementation of that, takes a long step in moving a international system and also on local level in the right direction. We see in the United States you have a diversity of interstate and state-specific provisions in this direction. In Australia, the Gorgon field is probably going to now be implemented, and that is on the basis of national rules. But what I understand is that they still feel there need to be a uniform system across the different regions. So there's different types of challenges here, but I think on the total you need to have governments and agencies to put in place systems as soon as possible.